What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Over at the Atlanta branch of the Federal Reserve, their GDP now forecast for the first quarter has dropped to almost zero, 0.2%. And basically what this means is if the economy grows like this for 4 quarters in a row, it would grow only 2%, 0.2% for the entire year. And, of course, when you have negative GDP for 2 quarters in a row, it's officially a recession. Are they manipulating these numbers as well, the way they do the unemployment numbers? It's possible, because they admit this is a seasonally adjusted rate, which means we're not seeing the raw data. And the raw data is something that we should be making a point of getting our hands on. Over at ORAS.com, they have an article, U.S. First Quarter Growth Weakest in 3 Years as Consumer Spending Falters. And so right there, they're finally getting down to the nitty-gritty. It isn't online sales that's the problem. It's that people just don't have money to go on out to the shopping malls and buy things. And any economic policy that fails to address the recycling of wealth back down to the working and middle classes is doomed to fail. Somebody just sent me this chart here about military spending, which inevitably is going to have serious impact on anybody's economy. And let's see, for last year, 2016, total world spending on war was $1.686 trillion. Slightly more than 1/3 of that was the U.S. at $611 billion, followed by China at $215 billion, followed by Russia at $69 billion. So those are the numbers. That is really a huge amount of money. Now, getting on back to the sanctions war, the UN Special Reporter on the negative impact of the unilateral coercive measures, Idris Jazari, said that what we all know to be true already. The sanctions against Russia are hurting the West far more than they're hurting Russia. And looking back at last year's numbers, Russia lost about $50 billion. The West lost $100 billion. Good planning, good thinking. We're going to take a phone call here. Alex in Florida. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. Thank you for having me on. I'm discouraged that there's no prosecutions taking place in this country. The crimes are astronomical. And I think that all this war talk and this and that is because the people that have committed the crimes know that. I think if we actually have the Soviet-style collapse that you say that you think that we're going to have unless we go to war, I think if we have it in that form, that there will be prosecutions at the end of it. And I think they know that.
Well, I would certainly like to see that.
Well, we need to do something. Come on. I mean, how many millions of people can we kill? How many people can we unmask in our country? How many war crimes can we commit? How many deep state governments can we have before we realize that these people are criminals and they need to be prosecuted?
Well, you know what the difference is between a successful and an unsuccessful criminal?
No, tell me.
The unsuccessful ones go to prison. The successful ones go to Washington, D.C.
Exactly. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. Here. And that's part of my disappointment with Trump, because I, like you, I wanted to see the Clintons prosecuted for spying, Chinagate, Travelgate, the murder of Vince Foster. The evidence is out there, but we are clearly living in a dictatorship that has two classes. There's the ruling class who, like medieval nobility, are allowed to just kill and do whatever they want and never be touched by the law for it. And then there's those of us who are below that line, the slaves, the serfs, the plebes, who have to toe the law or face harsh punishment.
Yeah, and during the congressional hearings about Russia's so-called hacking of our election, Trey Gowdy brought it to their attention that, yes, Russia may have rigged our elections. However, we know that there's crimes that were committed with unmasking officials of our government.
Yeah.
We know those are crimes.
Yeah, we absolutely do, and that is one of the very obvious things that is causing many Americans to question the legitimacy of that central government. They want to go to war against these countries for unprovable, unfounded suspicion, yet we know crimes were being committed by the Democrats during the primaries and the election, and they're getting off scot-free. Yeah, Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to resign as head of the DNC, but when you're stealing an election, you're literally stealing the entire country. That's robbery on an epic scale, and it ought to be punished for the scale of that crime. I mean, we've got people who steal a six-pack of beer from a local convenience store who've gone to jail for longer sentences than some of these criminals who've looted billions from the public through fraud, especially those Wall Street bankers. They're stealing on a grand scale, and they're allowed to get away with it. White-collar crime costs America more than 10 times as much as street crime, but only the street criminals are being arrested and sent to prison, and not even that many of them.
Yes, and what's real discouraging is that the so-called progressives in the left, they don't even realize that there's crimes committed on astronomical scales in our government, and they're out there protesting Flynn, General Flynn, or they're protesting Trump. I heard a guy call liberal radio the other day and saying we need to impeach Trump, and luckily the host asked why, and his reason why is because he's mentally ill. There isn't a reason, even though I'm very disappointed with Trump right now. He should be standing up saying, hey, he needs to tweet more often about we need to investigate the Clinton Foundation, and we need to investigate unmasking, and we need to investigate the fact that Wall Street just got bailed out of $1 trillion in 2008, but their bonuses this year or last year were more than all the minimum wage employees' salaries put together.
You're absolutely right about that, and the situation here is extraordinarily unstable. But you've heard me talk about the post-truth society, and the corporate media and the government are openly out there saying truth and facts don't matter anymore. It's perceptions and belief that really should dominate the discourse. And it seems like we've abandoned the idea of a moral right and wrong in favor of a moral relativism, and instead of thinking in terms of what's right and wrong and legal and constitutional, the younger generation really is caught up in a cultish mentality, and that was being deliberately encouraged certainly on the side of Hillary Clinton, where it's our group versus your group. And we don't care what is right or wrong. We're going to protect our friends, and we're going to go after our enemies. And a good illustration of that is somebody put up a video at whatreallyhappened.com where young people were screaming about their criticism of Obama's policies because the interviewer told them they were Donald Trump's policies. And the instant he said, Donald Trump wants to do this, they went, oh, he can't do that. It's terrible. It's horrible. And so that right there tells you that the younger generation has unfortunately bought into this post-truth moral relativistic society, this idea that I'm with a group, a tribe, and we must always be right, and the other side must always be wrong.
That's right. And it's not only the young people. A lot of the senior citizen Democrats are the same way. I was just talking with one the other day. and a Hillary Clinton supporter, and I advised him. I said, hey, Hillary's the one that says we can't afford Medicare for all, but she's for Obamacare, paying the insurance companies twice the amount that a Medicare for all system would cost us. People want a nationalized health system. The Democratic Party's not for that. They're for corporate freaking profits after profit after profit, and screw you, Jack, because I'm doing all right. We need to prosecute
which is weird because, you know, back in the golden age of the Democratic Party, and we're talking back in the 60s, it was the Republicans who were seen as the greedy money junkies, the party of the wealthy. But the Democrats, again, money and power will corrupt anybody. I don't think it would corrupt me, but I welcome the opportunity to find out personally.
That's right. And another thing, I give you credit for the, you know, I've been a Democrat my whole life. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, but so we're not really Republicans, but the new party that you campaigned for with Trump was a party of peace and prosperity and law. It's like, that's what I see the new party as being. It's like you said, we voted, and what we voted for we didn't get. And it keeps on happening the same way. We need to prosecute people.
It's not one party. It's the system. Every election we go to the polls and we vote for more wealth for ourselves, more peace, prosperity, good supporting infrastructure, and that's all we really want. And election after election after election, we get an empty wrapper. And I think we've reached the point where we're just fed up with it. And I'm seeing all these articles all over about how our nation is really showing the symptoms of being at a breaking point, of devolving into regional revolution or civil war. I don't want to see that happen, but I'm beginning to think at this point it can't be stopped. At least I can't think of a way to stop it.
Yeah, well, the people that are for civil war are the people that basically don't think. They don't realize that we all need to hang together or we shall surely hang separately. We all need to be in the best interest of one another, not for the best interest of what Hillary Clinton tells us is the best interest of us. It's not our best interest. All you have to do is think.
Well,
if you think, they're not for us. These people, none of these parties are for us, and we need to get some prosecution. Yeah,
they're for themselves.
We need to get some prosecution.
You know, we're finding out that, you know, these people have become incredibly rich on government salaries, and government salaries are generous. You know, your average government worker makes 1.5 times what the same worker in the private sector is making. They're very generous. But still, even with those elevated salaries, finding out these people are worth $10, $15, $20 million, there's obviously something else going on out there.
Yeah, like this lady, Susan Rice, is worth $50 million.
Yes, and she spent her entire life in government service.
That is a scam right there. Where did she get that money from?
It's a very, very good question.
Where did John McCain and Pelosi get their money from?
Well,
It's like they're going into government for money.
Well, Pelosi's money is mostly coming from her husband, who is obviously taking advantage of his wife's political position and inside information. John McCain, I don't know where he got all of his money, but he got a good chunk of it from that Keating SNL debacle.
Yeah, he should still be prosecuted for that.
He should have been prosecuted back then. He should have been prosecuted. All 5 of them, even John Glenn, should have been prosecuted for that.
I know, it's like, just think if they dug that up on Trump right now. 20 years ago, he ripped off the savings and loan and profited $5 million. He'd be in jail right now. They'd probably want to hang him in the street for doing that crap.
Yeah, I think so.
If it's somebody that has a D, if it's someone that has a D after their name, it's okay. They're in our best interest. No, they're not in our best interest. They are for the wealthy, period. Actually, both parties are for the wealthy. And it's just sickening. I don't know what we're going to do. but we need to start prosecuting people. We need to start showing up in Washington, D.C. by the million.
I would say that last one is probably our best course of action, because the justice system is actually a just us system or an injustice system. We certainly saw that when FBI Director Comey and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch just gave Hillary Clinton a get-out-of-jail-free card, even after James Comey had told the entire American people on television of these felony Title 18 violations. And so we know the court system is corrupt. We know that it's there to enforce the will of the government, and we're seeing all these unconstitutional, illegal actions by judges over this borders debate. But I think 4 to 5 million people marching into Washington, D.C. all at the same time and saying, get out of our buildings, might be a better way to go. Peacefully. I'm not encouraging violence, because if there's one thing the U.S. government does do very well, it's kill people. And I do not want to see a revolution or civil war in this country, because the wrong people are going to die. But
you are correct.
Yeah, that's why I'm leaning toward a Soviet Union style collapse, because when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was a little bit of fighting. There was an attempt at a regaining of power by the Soviet hardliners, and some people did get killed. But I don't want to trivialize their horrific deaths, but it was only a handful. And that's a far better outcome than 20 million Americans killed in a new civil war.
Yeah, I don't know what the project was that Kennedy did. It was like a Manhattan-style project where he got a committee together to see what would happen if we got the whole world to disarm. And at the findings of that committee that gathered to find out what the outcome would be is, I believe back then they projected that minimum wage would be $25 an hour. We're spending so much money on war. We are.
I mean, are you familiar with Eisenhower's Cross of Iron speech?
Yes.
Oh, boy, yeah. If you're listeners, if you are not familiar with it, there are YouTube videos of it, or you can find the text of it online. Considering that he was the supreme Allied commander in Europe in World War II, Dwight D. Eisenhower, as president, was one of the most anti-war presidents we've ever had. And he was continually warning the American people about allowing the rise of the military-industrial complex. And he continued to speak out about the insane spending and how we were literally robbing our own country blind to keep these weapons makers in business. And his most famous speech on that was called the Cross of Iron speech. And you can search it by that name, Eisenhower Cross of Iron, and get the text. And that is really important to look at. Okay, listen,
sure.
Alex.
One other thing. We need to be demanding that the declassified information on Kennedy's assassination be unclassified. We need to see that trial. Isn't that
hang on. I think we're coming up on the time when all that information is supposed to automatically be declassified. Of course, they may reclassify.
I think we're past it.
Well, then it's time to start.
We past it?
Well, they've started letting some of the information out, but we haven't gotten it all. They may just bury it and make up other stuff because, again, once a government tells a lie, they never back off from it. It becomes part of the alternate reality on which policy is based. So, again, we don't need the government to tell us. We know what we know. We go back and we look, we see the evidence for ourselves. We know how ridiculous the magic bullet theory was. We know that the House Select Committee on Assassinations was unable to support the claim of a single shooter. They were literally forced by the technology of their day to acknowledge there were multiple shooters in Dealey Plaza, and by default, that means there was, in fact, a conspiracy. And so everybody who was out there saying, Lee Harvey Oswald, they were part of the lie. Alex, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to do our much-delayed shout-out to our on-air affiliates just rejoining our network. Actually, they rejoined about 20 minutes ago. And a little bit of a caveat here. We have some major thunderstorms that are just now starting to come in overhead. They're predicted to last for the next 3 days. So if we go from a live show to a recorded show, you will understand why, because we've been knocked off the air with thunderstorms before. All right, let's go back to the phones here. Francis in North Carolina, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, aloha to you.
Aloha.
Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, and good luck with the rain for that matter, let alone anything else. Two quick thoughts for you. One, as far as the legal system goes and how fouled up or screwed up or whatever you want to call it is concerned, well, you know something? There's such a thing as the scales of justice being tilted one way or the other. How about the fact that the scales of justice has been turned upside down?
Well, it absolutely has. And by the way, that blindfold that Justice wears, you can actually see through that because I used to do that magic trick when I was a professional magician.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, and on the side issue, when you're talking about the technology, yesterday I think it was regarding people having a camera or some sort of high-tech device that actually they have in their bedroom or bathroom or whatever that shows about how they're dressing or how they look when they're getting clothes on or whatever, and if it doesn't look right, that they can have something ordered or whatever have you.
Yes.
You know, that would only apply to folks that are into what's called STS.
Please.
STS means, do what?
I say, please expand on that. I don't know what STS means. I mean, to me, that's the space shuttle, the space transportation system.
Oh, no. This is even worse than that. At least to some people, anyway. STS is sexy, trendy, and sophisticated.
In other words, the vein. Okay. Bingo. The vein. Well, you know, the real danger, of course, is that somebody is going to hack into Amazon servers and get those raw images, because like the voice interpretation, it's not handled in the device in your home. The images of you in your bedroom, bathroom, doing whatever it is that you do are being sent by the device to Amazon servers, and anybody who gets into those servers, they're going to get pictures of all kinds of people in embarrassing situations, and either open them up for cyberbullying or extortion, and it's very dangerous. I certainly would not have one of those. First of all, as you can tell, I'm not exactly interested in being a fashion statement to anybody. I leave that up to my lovely wife, Claire. But I'm still not going to have one of those things anywhere near her as well.
Well, you know something? It gives whole new meaning to the terminology pornography and blackmail. Yes,
it will. And again, as I said when I talked about this device yesterday, the technology is becoming decadent. It's almost becoming a fashion accessory where people are buying computerized this and computerized that, not because they really need it or want it or even know how to use it properly, but because it's the thing to have. I've got a computerized dog polisher. And
well, there is that, but I also look at the fact that how much people are computerizing this, that, and whatever have you in life. I look at it as making people basically lazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm not entirely sure about that because it takes a lot of work to get these devices going. It's one of the reasons why I'm flushing them out of my life, like with my coffee pot. I don't want to have to be learning a new programming language to get my cup of coffee in the morning. At that hour of the morning, I'm not thinking very clearly anyway. I push the wrong button, and the machine could give me, like scotch or something. I don't know what's in there. Okay?
No, that couldn't get you that either. Have a great weekend. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. And we're coming up here on another commercial break, so I am not going to be taking another phone call until after that. Getting on back to the news here, President Duterte is kicking the globalist Rothschilds out of the Philippines, and I don't think he realizes it, but the Philippines just made the U.S. government's special high-interest targets list. We'll be back after these commercials. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And Fox News is reporting that North Korea has just tested a ballistic missile. So the party is on. So are we going to see the USS Michigan launch massive cruise missile attacks? Are we going to see anything from the Carl Vinson? Remember that story we reported earlier The Aegis ships that are in that Carl Vinson battle group are configured and armed for air defense. They do not have the radars or the missiles to intercept an incoming ballistic threat. North Korea could cause serious damage to that flotilla, to that armada, and it's getting crazy out there. I mean, obviously, Claire and I are a little bit freaked about it. We're going to have thunderstorms for the next 3 days, and every time there's a loud boom, Claire's going to scream, "We're being attacked! We're being attacked!" I'm going to have to Velcro her down to the floor, keep her calm. All right, we're going to take 2 more phone calls, and then we're going to close the line so I can get back to the news here. Reed in New Jersey, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I just want to say it's very crucial in this time that we support the independent media, and I think we should vote with our dollar. Like, for example, the Pepsi commercial was very intrusive towards a lot of the people on the right and everything, and we should definitely boycott them. What's your opinion? Like, boycott the companies that are anti-America and anti-free speech and everything, and what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, and it does work. I mean, look at the damage that was inflicted on Target for the transgender restrooms, Starbucks for the refugee policy, and the one that's suing Alex Jones, the yogurt company, that's trying to blame him because their sales went down when they stated they would hire refugees ahead of U.S. citizens. So, yeah, boycotts absolutely can work, and they should work. If people were more sensitive to the companies that are behind some of this damage, I think it would be a good thing. Coca-Cola sales are way, way down. They had to let 1,200 people go. Coca-Cola is trying to blame it on all those health nuts who think that all these chemicals and sugar are bad for you. And that's certainly part of it. But the other part of it is, again, we're all running out of money.
Yeah. All right. Well, last comment, but yeah, just to everybody, support independent media, the true independent media, and put your money where your mouth is. And if you want free speech to last, support people like Mike Rivero. I believe he is a true individual that speaks the truth, and other individuals. And thank you, Mike, for speaking. Aiea. Bye.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to switch over to Rick in Arizona. Rick, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, I just want to make a comment about that one caller, talk about Susan Rice. So she's married to a guy named Cameron, who's a white guy who was a ABC News television producer.
Mm-hmm.
And her father, Rice's father, was a retired senior vice president of the National Bank of Washington. And he's a former Federal Reserve governor. So I guess, with that kind of laundry list over the years, you could end up inheriting $50 million. I just want to make another comment quick. And
before you make that comment, though, I would rather we not guess. It's entirely possible what you're saying is true. But given the climate of corruption in Washington, D.C., other explanations should be examined with equal focus.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm still on board with, I think, this. I kind of wonder, like, all these countries that were riding bicycles 40, 50 years ago got nuclear weapons. Russians didn't have nuclear weapons until the Rosenbergs gave them the mechanics of it, and they went to the chair for it. So
the Rosenbergs did, yeah, they absolutely did. But
and the Russians had those German, they had the German scientists. So I just don't know how all these people all of a sudden got nuclear weapons, and then we're worried about them guiding missiles all the way across the galaxy to hit us. I don't know. I think this might be a distraction to Trump's not following through on anything.
Well,
I don't know. We'll see.
It could very well be, and I'm looking at this report coming out of the Telegraph about this ballistic missile launch, and it's saying the missile is unidentified. They're just calling it a ballistic missile. And the report is coming from South Korea's military. So this could be a grand hoax because we know wars are started with hoaxes. And here's the dangerous part about any kind of a hoax right now. North Korea knows they were framed for the Cheosan, And so probably Kim Jong-un's advisors are saying the U.S. is coming, they're just going to make up an excuse, they'll sink a ship and blame it on us, we may as well go ahead and launch an attack. And that's how destabilizing to the situation these false flags can be. The false flags themselves are a threat to peace.
You're right, Mike. You're absolutely right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to go ahead and close the phone lines for a while, get some news done. But, yeah, here we are. Fox News is back. North Korea tests ballistic missile. But they're not saying exactly what kind of missile it is. Again, from the Telegraph, they're saying it's an unidentified missile. Now, in military jargon, I mean, if you think about it, technically all missiles are pretty much ballistic once they run out of fuel. But when they talk about ballistic missile in the strategic sense, they're talking about the ultra-long range out of the atmosphere, come on down in another part of the globe. And so this may be one of North Korea's medium-range missiles that doesn't really qualify to be called a strategic ballistic missile. So already we're in this very, very gray area. It's funny, Claire this morning was saying that she was absolutely convinced it was all going to crank up this weekend, and right now it's looking like that very well might be the truth. Getting on back to globalism, the European Union is now demanding an increase to the bill Great Britain must pay to leave the European Union. And the increase is being demanded because of the European Union's budgetary shortfalls. For the last several years, Germany and Great Britain have basically been carrying the load for the rest of the EU as it suffers under the slavery of that European Central Bank. And the EU doesn't really want Great Britain to go, or if Great Britain wants to go, they want the money to stay, which is kind of a ridiculous idea because it is that huge cost to the EU that is part of what drove the Brexit movement, along with open borders and a plethora of nitpicky regulations constantly coming from Brussels. Now, over in France, following that first round election, Macron was doing very well in the polls, but his lead over Le Pen is rapidly falling, and people are saying he's basically conducting a lackluster campaign. In fact, he's starting to look a lot like Hillary Clinton, in which he thinks the election's already stolen for him, so why should he go on out and do a lot of that campaign stuff? We saw that with Hillary last year. But, of course, it didn't work out for Hillary, and it may not work out for Macron. The poll numbers are almost neck and neck now. Italian prosecutors, or actually one Italian prosecutor, Carmelo Zuccaro, is saying that surveillance has revealed various non-governmental organizations are actually working with the human smugglers to flood Europe with migrants and destabilize their society. And obviously human smugglers are criminals, and the NGOs are, by linkage, also criminal. And we know that that is exactly what is happening to Europe. In fact, story coming out of Investment Watch blog, Muslim riots are breaking out again in Great Britain. Muslims are now attacking Christians and telling all whites should get out of Great Britain because it's now their country. And once again, the police are standing by and not doing much about it. Really is ridiculous. Now, over in New York State, there's a Democratic assemblyman is introducing a bill requiring halal-compliant lunches for public schools. And that is way over the line. I mean, they don't even mandate kosher lunches in public schools. But now they're going to, it's got to be halal compliant. And I think here's what's going on. If Muslims in the public school system do not want their children eating the supplied lunch, let them pack a lunch from home. Because by making the lunches halal compliant, you are discriminating against the non-Muslims who may want to be eating things that they'd rather eat. Now, as you know, a big sticking point over the emergency funding bill was funding for Donald Trump's wall, and it was a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the total amount of money involved. And the Democratic liberals just stamped their feet and said, absolutely not, we will not fund this thing. We've got to have open borders. Open borders are essential. We need more illegal immigrants so we can steal the election back in 2020. And Donald Trump caved, and a lot of people were very disappointed that he caved on that issue, but he's now out there saying the wall is still going to be built. We're just going to fund it from some other source. Ted Cruz is out there saying, let's just take the drug lords' money and pay for it that way. And that was the original intent of the civil forfeiture. Take away the criminals' money, take away the profit, turn it back into the society it was stolen from. Now, we mentioned this earlier in the show in response to a phone call where Donald Trump, in an interview in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, declared he's both a nationalist and a globalist. That's like saying you're both black and white, or you're both male and female, Caitlin. No, the two are mutually exclusive. The globalists are anti-nation, and nationalists don't want to be part of a globalist world. Trump is clearly trying to pander to everybody, try and get his poll numbers back up because they're down there in the Al-Qaeda right now. And it was just about exactly 1 year ago that Trump delivered the greatest speech of his campaign and said, quote, we will no longer surrender the country or its people to the false song of globalism. And here we are 1 year later. Yeah, I'm a nationalist and I'm a globalist. I'm a Republican and a Democrat. I'm a human and I'm a giraffe. Ridiculous. Again, over in Afghanistan, huge source of opium. Now remember, under the Taliban, opium was eradicated in Afghanistan. If you were caught with an opium poppy, they'd take your hand off. Brutal, draconian, but it worked. And as soon as the U.S. invaded, the poppies were blooming, and we have photos of coalition troops, including those wearing the U.S. flag patch, guarding and protecting the opium poppy fields and handling the sacks of the raw opium going to American drug lords. And that's another lie that you get out of Hollywood. The drug lords are always sweaty men in South America or Mexico. Nope, they're living right here. So now we have Representative Dana Rohrabacher during a congressional hearing about why didn't we eradicate the opium, because obviously our enemies are using it to fund the opposition to the U.S. takeover of Afghanistan. And she came on out with this ridiculous excuse that the U.S. won't spray opium in Afghanistan because the crops might be too close to a mosque. This from the same government that allows Roundup, a known carcinogen, to be sprayed all over the place. The reason they're not spraying the opium poppies in Afghanistan is it would cut into the CIA's drug money profits, and that's exactly what's being protected. Now, this is one of the articles I mentioned earlier in the show where people are noticing that the American people as a whole are starting to show the symptoms of the stress. And this is an article that came out of Zero Hedge. Are we collectively depressed? And we're seeing all this anger and rage in the streets, and everybody's at a flashpoint. And psychoanalysis teaches that one cause of depression is repressing your anger. So instead of repressing your anger and being depressed, and if you are depressed, please do not get those prescription antidepressant medications. They'll really mess you up. It's time to let the anger out. Screw anger management. I am pissed off, and so should you be. And the rising tide of collective anger is visible all over. Road rage, we're seeing it here in Hawaii. Street clashes between groups that are just anxious for a fight but don't know who the enemy is. The loss of family and friends for holding incorrect ideological views. And we've taken this American culture war as far as it can go without shattering the nation as a whole. Okay, a supervisor over in the Accounts Payable Department of Hamlin University in St. Paul stole more than $150,000 from the school by creating fake vendor accounts and cashing the checks issued by the university into her personal bank account. Maybe she was trying to pay off her student loans. It's one way to do it, I guess. Apparently there is a new app for that. This one in regards to climate change, and was called After Ice. It was issued in honor of Earth Day, and it gets your location and then shows you the terrible things that are going to happen to where you live if human-caused global warming can't be stopped. And it's really over the top. It shows you completely flooded, and there's a little fishy swimming in front of your face. And it's not education. It's more propaganda. Alrighty. Getting into computers, the NatWest online banking is down again. The mobile app will not work. Customers unable to log in. And apparently some customers have complained that transfers they made just before the outage have now vanished. The money is not in their account, and it never arrived at the destination account. This is going to be a real mess to clean on up. Now, was this a computer failure? Was it hacking? Or did NatWest pull the plug because they're in a cash crisis? Because we've seen that happen. Apparently, hackers have been exploiting a Microsoft Word bug, and apparently Microsoft was told about it last October and still has not fixed it. They're too busy shoving Windows 10 at everybody. Now, we're coming up on a commercial break here, and when I come on back, I've got a PC story, and that's PC in both of its contexts, that you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe how absurd this got. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Now, Facebook has its community standards, and apparently this woman posted a photo of herself as topless, and Facebook removed the photo, claiming it violated their community standards. The poster came on back and said that I actually identify as a male, and that should make my nipples acceptable, because Facebook is loaded with pictures of men whose nipples are visible. Facebook actually apologized and put the photo back. That is just absurd. So, anyway, now there is a social justice warrior who is raising her cats gender neutral to help society. And this is not some fringe nutcase. This is a writer at the Washington Compost. Lauren Taylor is raising her cats gender neutral to help her be more inclusive. That's got to be one very confused cat. Now, Google is once again rewriting its search engine rankings to become the Ministry of Truth. And Google's chairman is out there saying it's not censorship. Okay? We're not arguing for censorship. We're just making certain things harder to find. That's not really censorship. Yeah, actually it is. Apparently, in the eyes of Google, everyone is allowed an opinion as long as it's the right one. You have freedom of speech. You are free to say what the government tells you to say. YouTube is now flagging anti-war politics automatically. And I would think that maybe Google and Facebook ought to be taking a closer look at themselves, because they got suckered in a huge scam to the tune of $100 million. And apparently somebody in Lithuania did an email phishing attack against these two companies and tricked them into wiring more than $100 million to the scammers' bank accounts. Well done, Google. All right, we're going to take one more phone call before the top of the hour. Johnny in Berkeley, aloha, what's up?
Hey, Mike, this is Johnny. I'm with the Oath Keepers. And I just want to give you a little report of what
two
happened
minutes.
out of Berkeley.
2 minutes. Make it fast.
Finally, the Berkeley Police Department did their job, and we had another successful freedom of speech rally without any incident whatsoever.
Good.
And just want to let people know that this event was not about culture. It was about freedom of speech, and we will continue to do the same, protect our freedom of speech. And I just wanted to let you know that they busted 2 cars of Antifa with explosives in it, and so those people have been arrested.
Good.
And hopefully they will be charged with domestic terrorism because of what they did last time. So,
all right. Well, that sounds really good.
I
got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification, and the lovely Lady Claire is going to be joining us.